Hello and welcome to Misshannalovesgrammar. In this video we'll be concentrating on the overarching themes and ideas beneath the Petrarchan sonnet Remember by Christina Rossetti. Rossetti is the foremost female poet of the 19th century. For me, as a woman writing in a man's world, she has already got an interesting vantage point on the world around her. Additionally, though, her life was coloured by her Italian heritage. Her father had been exiled from Italy as a revolutionary and a poet, and there's a definite creative streak across the family, in fact, as shown by her brother as an artist too. Across her life, she lost faith in men, and I think this in part came from belonging to a deeply religious family and seeing the cracks in institutions within those realms. But additionally, her life was coloured by seeing women who were part of institutions. She worked with a lot of fallen women. Her position as a woman writing at this time already made her the voice of the silenced, but I think she also had a unique voice for sharing the stories and troubles of other fallen women. Now, interestingly enough, Rossetti wrote this poem at the mere age of 19, a very impressive feat, but it was not published until she was 31, and it was published alongside a collection of poems called Goblin, Market and Other Poems. So remember. Already we have a title which has an imperative mood. It's compelling us to remember something. So as readers, we want to question, well, what is it we should be remembering? And in that moment, we're scrabbling around to remember what it is we might have forgotten. There's an irony at play. The fact that we have to be reminded to remember is a call upon us as readers to reflect on the whole intention behind this poem. So really a legacy, this poem, a monument about how she wishes to be remembered by a loved one. But it plays out for us in all manner of majestic ways when we're called to remember something without knowing exactly what it is. Remember me when I am gone away, gone far away into the silent land, when you can no more hold me by the hand, nor I half turn to go, yet turning stay. Remember me when no more day by day you tell me of our future that you planned. Only remember me, you understand. It will be too late to counsel then or pray. Yet if you should forget me for a while, and afterwards remember, do not grieve. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of the thoughts that once I had, better by far you should forget and smile, and that you should remember and be sad. It's fair to say, as we step away from the sonnet and its reading, it resonates and echoes beautifully, and that's in part due to the rhyming structure, as we'll come back to later in this video. But across this poem, the repetition of remember highlights our speaker's fear that their beloved will not heed her request. Additionally, the repetition of gone away in the second and first line repeated, it highlights definitely this boundary between life and death. For me, there's quite a euphemistic tone across this poem, not wanting to darken and dampen the mood more than can already be done, not meaning to strike genuine fear in whoever the intended reader is. But there's definitely a concern about life beyond. The fact the image of silent land is used, well, we can automatically equate that with death and loneliness, life without the lover. Now, for the Pre-Raphaelites, they believed the struggles of the mind were the most difficult to cope with, and I think this echoes throughout the poem, and it resonates more clearly as we hear the logic across the octave. This is all about the struggle of when you can no longer be held by the hand, when they physically can not see this person. And the struggle of half turning to go, yet turning to stay. This is a real mental feat to manage without the person you love. Once more, this physical separation, when you can no longer hold me by the hand, this is beyond not seeing the person. This is a deeper concern about life without the person with you to guide you and advise you. I think throughout the repetition of no more, when we hear such negative indications in the speech, this is all about ceasing to be. reenacting the fears of our speaker before they actually happen. I also feel that across this octave there's a latent other message. You tell me of our future that you planned. With no more day by day, you tell me of our future that you planned. So here, no, death decides on life, or specifically my life. You cannot play that out for me. Across the octave, the concern is, when I'm gone, what are we going to do? What's it going to be like? Yet, at the Volta on line 9, yet, if you should forget me for a while, there's a distinct shift from the concerns of only remember me. That intentional pause there in the midline of that. You understand it will be too late to counsel then or pray. In that sentiment at the end of our octave, we are concerned with the fact that there'll be nothing more to change then. Just remember me. Yet the Volta, there's a contemplative, reflective mood coming in. Our speaker is not at peace at this point in the Volta. The thing she wants is to be remembered, yet here we have it. Yet if you should forget me for a while. It's quite an ironic moment. The speaker renounces the idea of being remembered, and that contradicts the tone of the poem and its title. But I love the fact that we have such a distinct turning point in this poem. We're navigating the minefield of her mind, and for the Pre-Raphaelites, an influence definitely within her work, this is something that's so significant. More than anything, as we go through the sestet, and afterwards remember, yet if you should forget me for a while, and afterwards remember, the enjambment used here, it's the stream of consciousness, it's an overflow of thoughts. Do not grieve. That's instructive, it's imperative. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of the thoughts that once I had, better by far you should forget and smile than you should remember and be sad. Here, our speaker is sacrificing their own personal desire in an expression of true love. They wish to be remembered, but if it's too painful for the lover to remember, better by far you should forget and smile than remember and be sad. The simplistic imagery used here of forget, smile, remember, sad, these are simple images that we connect implicitly, almost, overtly actually, to things we would learn as a child. And I think that adds to the euphemistic poem. It adds to this sense that this is a clear message. As we walk away from this sonnet, there's a legacy in this poem. It's immortalising our speaker, actually. Every poem is a sort of monument, but in this particular case, we step back and we understand. She realises she may not be remembered, but this poem will live beyond her. It's a very meta idea. It goes beyond the poem and its actual focus on one idea. Perhaps the most impressive feat across the language of this poem is the selflessness that is conveyed through the simple language, the repetition, and the stream of consciousness as this poetic voice tries to run through its concerns. This is amplified too by the structure as well. So this is a Petrarchan sonnet. It's written in iambic pentameter, and it's interesting. It's a Petrarchan sonnet. I think her Italian heritage maybe made her well versed in this. It's got a Renaissance feel about it, which was centuries before her life. But Rossetti still chooses to use this. The octave obviously poses the problem, and the sestet does actually solve it. The final 6 lines solve the drama of, well, what should happen if you can't cope with remembering me? But as if that weren't enough, the other element of the structure that does so much to support this message is the use of iambic pentameter. It's the one that mirrors the heartbeat. It's 10 beats per line, and it's often linked to a sincere message. And I think as well, there's another layer as to why we need such an intensive rhyme scheme across every line. Our poet here, or more than anything, our speaker, seeks to control a situation. They can't control our reaction as readers, but they can control the rhyme scheme. It's a way of trying to own a situation that's beyond their control. It's a very powerful play of their intention and what they hope to receive from sharing their wishes. The most challenging thing across this sonnet, though, is what happens in the sestet. You'll notice that it's different from the stereotypical final 6 lines of a Petrarchan sonnet. And the most interesting thing, I think, is the challenge with the D, D, E, C, E. Now, the disruption of the expected pattern in the sestet definitely emphasises our speaker's thoughts. It's almost as if we're intruding on their thoughts, or the fact there's enjambment at the point that we're most aware of it. So better by far you should forget and smile than that you should remember and be sad. Suggests to me this is an overflow of emotion. This is so powerful, and it's igniting within us as readers just how deeply this person cares. They may feel the iambic pentameter be in control of that, but the rhyme is shifted because of that overflow of emotion. I love that the rhyme of what I've labelled E here, E for had and sad, are somehow rhyming with a certain pertinency. To me, the linking of had and sad is Rossetti here highlighting the gap between remembering and forgetting. And that's the biggest fear that our speaker has. That you would live being sad about what had happened and forget all that there was between you and your lover. And for me, this is why this poem is a masterpiece. It's a sonnet that is timeless. Every person who ever walked the face of the planet seeks to be remembered. And this is a speaker trying to live beyond their years. But more than anything, it's also a poem that teaches us that every poem is a monument, and it's seeking something to address our concerns about loss.